You want to jump in the cannabis industry and you want to know how to protect your inventions or maybe even the name of your company. So please watch this video to learn all the things you need to do to protect yourself. Okay, everybody, Stephen Key here, and I have a special guest that's going to help us understand how to protect those ideas that relate to cannabis because it's a pretty hot topic and that industry is exploding. So please introduce yourself, James. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm James Gourley. I'm an intellectual property lawyer. I'm a partner at an IP boutique law firm. So we do patents, trademarks, copyrights, and yeah, I have kind of a lot of experience in the cannabis IP world. So you asked me to come here and chat about it, so I'm here.
Well, thank you so much. Well, you're in the hotbed, right? I mean, didn't it all kind of start in Colorado where, you could start to sell it and everything else? So you're right in the kind of the ground zero, really. I mean,
Yeah. Colorado and California, I think we're very, very close on one another. I think California might have had medical cannabis legal first. I think
okay,
Colorado might have been the first recreational state.
that's right. Okay.
So, so yeah, it's been going on here for quite a while.
All right, let's talk about all the different categories you can protect things
Yeah,
because it's a big industry. I mean, I went to a trade show a while back and I couldn't believe how many people were there. Where
yeah,
some of the trade shows were hurting, this was not a show that was hurting. It was packed, but they had everything from paraphernalia, different smoking devices. They had everything from rolling machines. They had everything from the right soil to use to lights to irrigation. It was a full range of things. Are
yeah,
you seeing people protect in one particular area, or is it just in all different areas of growing cannabis?
yeah. So, it depends on what kind of protection you're talking about. So, if we're talking about trademarks, those are more difficult to protect in the cannabis industry than patents are, and I guess we can talk a little bit about that. Um, for any business that actually touches the plant, you're going to have a pretty difficult time getting a trademark application through the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office because they um, they have this thing called the lawful use requirement. So anytime you submit a trademark application to the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, one of the little boxes they check is whether you are using the trademark in a way that is consistent with federal law.
Mhm.
And as we sit here today, high THC cannabis is illegal under federal law, under the Controlled Substances Act. So, if you're selling a certain brand of cannabis, you're you're not going to get a trademark registration on that.
No, no, no,
So,
wait a minute here, because a lot of it is branded, isn't it? I mean, you
sure.
have even big celebrities, Mike Tyson. I mean, you've got maybe Snoop Dogg. You've got all these celebrities with their brand. How are they protecting it, or are they?
Well, there are kind of two different strategies to use when federal trademark registration is not available. One is state trademark registration. So, Colorado has its own,
Okay.
you can register a trademark in Colorado, you can do it in California, you can do it in
Huh.
Illinois. So, a little more work, filing applications in all these different states where you're actually selling, but it does give you some
Okay.
measure of protection. Okay. So whereas, if you file a federal trademark registration, it covers the entire country. So so that's one
Wow.
strategy. You just go state by state. Um, the other strategy is to get a trademark registered with the USPTO on what are sometimes referred to as sort of like ancillary goods. So, lighters,
Here.
rolling papers that could be used for tobacco,
Got it.
things like
Okay.
that. But you actually have to be selling these products. You can't just, you know, register a trademark for a cigarette lighter and not actually be selling them.
Got it.
You actually have to sell the products that you're registering it on. And there's one cannabis product that is registrable with the federal government, and that is hemp
Oh,
flower.
okay.
Like just literally low THC hemp flower itself is legal under the 2018 Farm Bill. And the US Patent and Trademark Office will register a
Okay.
trademark just covering hemp.
Okay.
It can't be edible gummies with hemp. It can't be topical lotions with hemp because those products run afoul of a different federal law, the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetics Act. So technically, you know, anytime you buy a hemp gummy or a hemp lotion, those products are not compliant with federal law either.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, so wait a minute. Um, this is confusing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, uh, so I can do it state by state, which is interesting. I didn't know
Sure.
that. It's going
Yep.
to cost me much more, but I can still protect it. That's a great strategy. Because this is so difficult to navigate, I think it is. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's why we have lawyers, right?
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why we have James on today, because I know there's a lot of you out there that want to participate in this growing industry, but how do you really protect what you're doing? I think you're going to need some legal help. Am I right about that? I just I,
Yeah, I think
okay.
so. I mean,
All right.
if you just want to, kind of shoot from the hip, it's still sort of wild, wild west. But if you want to make sure that there are no, confusingly similar products out there, then you
Yeah.
need to protect it with a trademark.
Because
Yeah.
it's heavy, it's funny. I've been in a couple of dispensaries and it's very heavily branded. you know,
Hmm.
it's kind of funny. It's all branded to a certain degree, and maybe in-house, maybe it's private label, but it's all branded. And to think that they have to go state by state by state,
Yeah.
that's a little bit more complicated. But then again, you can still get that protection that you need.
Yeah,
Okay.
you can. And it's actually, I mean, registering a trademark with the state at the state level is actually a bit easier than it is at the federal government. I mean, you do have to file, like if you're
Yeah.
selling in multiple states, you do have to file applications in multiple states, but by and large, they aren't really examined terribly
Okay.
hard. So it's pretty likely that if you file a trademark application with like the
Okay.
state of Colorado or the state of Illinois, it's probably going to be registered without a whole lot of trouble after the initial application. So
Well, here's the catch on this, everybody, because I filed a lot of trademarks. It's never a problem until you get some office action where there is a problem.
yeah.
All right.
And if you file a trademark application with the US Patent and Trademark Office, a federal application, it will absolutely be examined and make sure that you are complying with all their, little
Yeah.
requirements. So,
It's easy to do until there's a problem, and then you
yeah,
have to find someone to help you. So,
yeah.
okay, trademarks, fantastic. What about patents?
Hmm.
Can I
Yeah. So,
patent if I'm growing cannabis and I have, maybe I'm taking two different strains and I think I'm coming up with something new. Can I
yeah,
patent that?
conceivably, yeah, there have been a few people that have gotten patents on cannabis strains.
Okay.
It is possible. These are so-called plant patents, and I'm not a super expert on them, and I don't think they're the most valuable patents because they're kind of easy to get around. But the most powerful patents are utility patents, and
Yeah.
that's for something like if you come up with a new product formulation or you come up with a new way to extract THC from cannabis material, or if you come up with a new piece of equipment that will, trim the flower from the stalk more efficiently. Those are the kinds of things that
Okay.
most people patent in the
Got it.
cannabis world.
Well, that's interesting. So I'm not real familiar with plant patents either. I mean,
Yeah,
I
it's
know
a
they're big in
very highly specialized.
Yeah, I know in the farming industry, people file on different, you know, maybe tomatoes, who knows what,
Yeah,
or how to grow a certain crop that may be seedless or something like that. Okay, I get that. So utility patents on making it easier, maybe cheaper, maybe faster,
yep,
and you've got that ability. How many of those patents are being filed? Is it a big push right now? Do you see a lot of
yeah.
them, or very few, or what's going on?
Definitely. Yeah. A lot of patent activity. A lot of people filing patents because there's not, for a long time, I think people sort of assumed that maybe you couldn't get a cannabis related patent, but that was not true because the patent office doesn't have a lawful use requirement.
Okay.
So even though illegal federally, they will give you a patent on a THC formulation that like a formulated product that includes THC as one of the ingredients, even though it would be totally illegal to sell it under federal law, they'll give you a patent on it.
So, so patent examiners, there's certain classifications,
Sure.
and there's certain patent examiners that stay in one classification and they become experts.
Mhm.
Is there a cannabis classification now?
Well, I mean, it would be an art unit related to botanical substances, if you're talking about processing, because it's the same, there's not really any difference between extracting THC out of a cannabis plant. There's no difference between that and extracting like lavender oil out of a lavender plant. It's
Interesting.
basically the same thing.
Interesting.
So the technology that applies to one of those is probably going to apply to the other. Um,
Hmm.
so the examiners that have been involved in sort of like botanical extraction or any kind of like um, plant harvesting equipment. I mean, all that kind of stuff is
Okay.
applicable to cannabis and just generally in the plant processing
Okay.
area.
Well, there might be some small changes, of course. So there's prior art then. What you're telling me, there's probably quite a bit of prior art.
Well, now there is. I think whenever in the early 2000s, when people first started kind of, maybe it was like sort of 2010-ish, people started filing these patent applications. There actually wasn't a lot of prior art because, like I said, I don't think a lot of people appreciated that you could get a patent on a cannabis related, invention. So the examiners early on, I don't think had a whole lot of prior art because they're two main categories of prior art that examiners look for. It's basically anything that's published, but a huge repository of that art is published patent applications and
Yeah.
issued patents. And if there are no patent applications or patents in the cannabis world before 2010-ish,
Okay.
um, that's pretty much unavailable. And then the other area is any other published document, whether it's like a peer-reviewed paper or anything on like the Wayback Machine, that was published before the filing date. Um, because again, it's been federally illegal, there just not a lot of people were writing about what they were doing. So they were just doing it and they were selling it, but they weren't writing about it.
Got it.
So even if, somebody filed a patent application on some kind of like new formulation they claim they invented, there could have been somebody selling that exact same formulation years before that, which would technically be prior art and invalidate the patent, but you would never know about it because nobody's out there advertising, hey,
They want to
I'm
kind of
violating the Controlled Substances Act. I'm a felon.
they want
So
to keep it kind of undercover.
yeah.
That's so funny.
So, if you file an application today,
Yeah.
there is a fair amount of like prior art that's been filed since 2010. So you're gonna have to deal with you're
So
gonna have to deal with that.
so who's filing all the patents? Are the big players now or independent inventors or it's just anybody and everybody?
It's both.
Okay.
Yeah, anybody with like an R&D facility. There have only been four or five, I think, cannabis related patent infringement cases that have
Oh,
ever been filed in the United States.
okay.
And I've actually been on the defense side of two of them. So I was defending the party that was accused of patent infringement.
All right.
And one of the plaintiffs' patent owners was a company who was decent size. It was based in Colorado. They attracted, millions of dollars in uh, like venture capital investment money. I don't
Okay.
think they ever actually made any. I don't think they ever actually turned a profit, and they ended up going bankrupt. But in the meantime, they spent some money on patent attorneys and got some very broad cannabis formulation patents.
Okay.
And they ended up suing a company that I ended up representing in the case. And we won because I was able to find enough prior art, luckily, to show that it was invalid. Um, so that was one of the cases. So that was like a formulation patent, and it basically covered the patent claims were directed to liquids that had greater than 95% CBD as a percentage of the cannabinoids that are in the formulation. So if you got like highly pure CBD and you put it in a liquid, you probably could be accused of infringing this patent. So that was one case. The
Wow.
other case was filed by a company that decided that they want to be the patent assertion entities in the cannabis space. So they've gone around and like bought up
Hmm.
this portfolio of patents that they think are, broadly applicable in the cannabis space. And one family of those that were involved in this particular case that I was on the defense side of, involved closed loop butane extraction, and sort of like having interchangeable extraction chambers. And I mean, I won't like bore you with all the details, but it's basically a closed loop butane extraction system that they got a patent on. Another company got a patent on it. They bought the patent, and now they're trying to enforce that patent. So,
Yeah, I know what those guys are called. I think there's a name for those guys.
yeah.
Um, so it's an interesting industry. I think it's going to keep on growing. I think it's just, I think it's at the very beginning, to tell you the truth. I think it's just
Hmm.
getting bigger and bigger. So
Yeah.
what we're talking about, is it still related when we say cannabis? Is it the same like for trademarks when we talk about CB, what is it?
CBD.
Yeah, CBD. It's the same thing too. It's not federal yet, or because it does have some THC in there, right?
Well, so there was a 2018 Farm Bill that excluded hemp from the Controlled
Okay.
Substances Act, and they defined hemp as basically any cannabis plant or its derivative or extract or whatever,
All right.
as long as it has less than 0.3% THC. So
Got it.
THC is the one that, gets you high. CBD, which is usually found in high amounts in hemp, um, is just doesn't get you high. There are some papers that suggest it has like anti-inflammatory effects or things like
Right.
that,
Okay.
but it will not affect your state of mind at all.
Okay.
So anything that has less than 0.3% THC that comes from cannabis sativa, um, is
All right.
falls under the definition of hemp. So that means it's not illegal under the Controlled Substances Act. And the way that typically manifests itself in the marketplace is, like you said, high CBD, low THC. That's
Okay.
that's what people call hemp. But as I said before, there's another law that governs these types of products called the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetics Act, and it's basically the legal structure that the Food and Drug Administration acts under.
All right.
And it before you can sell any product that people eat or any product that people put on their skin, it has to be approved by the FDA. And they have not approved CBD or hemp in
Oh,
an ingestible or a topical.
okay.
So, you know, that's why I know but really, like, in my experience, the only real enforcement that comes down from the FDA on those things is when people who are selling these products start making medical claims.
Okay.
That's when the FDA will send like a
All right.
cease and desist letter and say you can't be selling these things. But if people are just not making any medical claims, selling high CBD gummies or something like that. Typically, from what I've seen, the FDA is not
All right.
really, coming after those people. But that doesn't mean you can get a trademark on
Okay.
it.
So, well, let's say you're in Colorado. Let's say I live in New York.
Hmm.
A lot of inventors, entrepreneurs think that they need a patent attorney in their own state. But
Hmm.
that's not really the case now. It really has never really been the case, but it's even easier now because we have Zoom. How many of your clients actually live in Colorado, or are they all over the place?
Oh, they're all over the place.
All
Yeah,
right, all right,
absolutely.
all right.
Yeah, I mean, even I do two things. I do help people get patents.
Okay,
So that's one part of my practice. I also litigate patents in court, which is what I was talking about before. One of those cases was in Colorado, but the other one was in California. I mean, I litigated Texas, Illinois, all over the place. So
okay. Well, everyone, if you're watching this video and your business is in the cannabis space and you want to make sure you're doing everything right, and you really want to make sure that when you grow this business, it's yours
Mhm.
and you need some help, some legal help, find James. We're going to put all your information down below, right? And you don't have to find some attorney in your state. Find the guy that specializes in this. Call James. He'll take care of you. James, anything else you want to add? Thank you for coming on InventRight TV. But is there anything
No,
else
I,
that I
I
missed?
mean, it's really, I appreciate you having me. I mean, it's a fascinating area of the law that has nuances that are really just not seen anywhere else. So
They've
it's,
made it complicated.
they did, they did.
And maybe that's a good thing for you.
Yeah, yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
Most of the time, the only people that win on these things are the lawyers. So,
I, at times, I would agree with that. All right, everybody. This is Stephen Key, InventRight TV. Wow, cannabis is on fire. Make sure you go to the trade shows. Make sure you jump in if you want to. I think it's a great industry. I think it's growing. And if you need legal help, check out James down below. There you go.
cool.
Thank you, James.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, you've got a great product idea and you don't know what to do, and you want the pros to help you. We have a new program that's called Gateway, where we do all the heavy lifting for you. We're going to find the right companies and the right people to make sure your product is pitched correctly to get the licensing deal. And when the licensing deal comes on over, we're going to help negotiate it behind the scenes to make sure it's fair and balanced. So if you want the pros to do all the work for you, please check out our new program at InventRight. It's called Gateway.